Reisig. I'm an entomologist at the Vernon James Center, and we're going to talk today about southern corn billbug because it's kind of one of the main things on people's mind for the region. Do you mind, Vanna White here? I know this is kind of a silly beginning, but I put that there hoping maybe you'd remember some of the things that we talked about today. The first thing I want to point out is the historical range of southern corn billbug. So traditionally, at least, it was thought that it was throughout the southern states and even up into the Mississippi Valley. Now where you can find southern corn billbug is right here. So I have a colleague in Tifton, Georgia that did his PhD work on southern corn billbug. There was a lot of southern corn billbug in Georgia, a lot in the PD region of South Carolina, and it's entirely absent now. And I posed him the question, why is this thing gone? And he always tells me, aggressive nutsedge control. It seems like a simple answer for me, but it does teach us something important about this insect and why it's here. So the reason billbugs are here in this region is because this is a perfect billbug habitat. And if we didn't grow corn here, we'd have this insect because it's native to a lot of things that are here. So in these swampy areas right here by the lake, we have billbug hosts, things like eastern gamagrass, things like cattails, and then even in our field we have nutsedge. And you know how hard nutsedge is to kill with herbicides, don't you? So I have nutsedge in my driveway at home, and the rate I use to kill it with Roundup is brown. And what I mean is that tank's got to look brown when I mix the Roundup in the tank for me to kill the nutsedge. You know what I'm talking about. It's tough to kill. We have a lot of hosts in the environment, and because of that, combined with growing corn here continuously, southern corn billbug has been a problem. That being said, when I started 10 years ago, this thing was missing. I talked to an agent in Craven County, Mike Carroll, that's been there for a long time, and he told me, he said, you know, when I started, you could go to Pamlico County and you could gather all the billbugs there, link them arm to arm, and they'd cross the county. There were so many of them. You could pick them up off the ground. That was not the case. I really didn't see billbugs very much at all when I got here. Now they remind me of Arnold Schwarzenegger. So what do I mean when I say a billbug is like Arnold Schwarzenegger? So he's this Austrian guy that comes to the US and wins Mr. Universe. If you have not seen the documentary Pumping Iron, you heard it first here. It is awesome. It is hilarious. That guy is funny. You know, he wins Mr. Olympia 7 times. We think he's done. No, he stars in all these movies. He marries a Kennedy. I'm a graduate student in California, and we have this governor, Gray Davis, and he was all right, but some things happened. The dot-com bubble burst, so a lot of unemployment in the Silicon Valley. There was a car tax. I remember sitting in my apartment, and the lights would cut out. They deregulated the power, so there was a big mess, and Enron was running it, and you know how that went. But the governor got recalled, and guess who got elected? The governator. He was back. And I don't care where you fall on the political divide, it is super cool to me that my master's and PhD diploma have the governator's signature on them. I mean, this guy's awesome, right? So, like, just when you think you're rid of him, what does he say in the Terminator? I'll be back. So that's why the billbug is like the Terminator, Arnold, because the billbug is back in a big way. Next one. So I just want to cover a little bit about billbug biology because it's important that you understand it to know where billbug is and to know how to control it. So it's a 1 generation a year pest. And we'll start with what's going on right now. So this field is full of southern corn billbug. What happened here was there was a variety trial. Sometimes when you get varieties, the people that package the seed in the Midwest don't understand we need Poncho 1250 here. So they'll give us Poncho 250, Cruiser 250, Poncho 500. The result is we have billbugs. So you see a lot of this corn that's lodged, and that's because of southern corn billbug. So what's happened with this corn is a larva has developed here in the crown of the plant. So if we were to pick up any of these plants that are lodged, I would put big money that you would find something that's developed in the crown. The insect is gone right now. It's completed its generation and it's now an adult, and it's moved to overwintering habitats. So even though it's August, it's waiting for next season, for corn to be planted in this area, for it to come out again. If you want to know a billbug has come out, you can look for a slit here in the bottom of the plant. That's where a billbug is developed. It's pupated and the adult has left the plant. They overwinter in field edges. They'll overwinter in the field, And then when corn's planted, as soon as that is up, the billbug moves into the field. You know, it's looking to do two things. It wants to eat and it wants to mate. And so what we try and do is disrupt that, right? We try and use seed treatments, insecticides, and things like that to stop that process. When the billbug eats, it's got really strong chewing mouth parts. And when it chews on corn, when it's small, V1, it can actually kill the plant. So damage can be very severe. It can stunt the plant. Sometimes you'll see whipping where the terminal's dead and it's sort of whipped and stuck into the whorl as the plant's trying to unfold. Less severe injury, but something that's indicative of billbug is this transverse holes in the leaves. And that's because when the corn leaf hasn't unfurled yet, it's in the whorl, even though it's eating on one part of the leaf, it's eating all the way through the leaf. So when the leaf unfurls, you see multiple holes in the leaf. You can also see nutrient deficiencies. It's gummed up the veins that the plant needs to transport nutrients. And then less severe billbug injury is this kind of thing here. It's almost impossible to tell this kind of injury apart from stink bugs. So they're feeding at the same point of the plant. Before the growing point of the plant is not at the soil surface until V5. So a billbug or a stink bug is going to get their head as far below the surface as they can to feed on that growing point and interrupt that development. The way I can tell if it's billbug or stink bug is generally billbug damage tends to be more severe, or we can go like in June and split crowns like this and find billbugs in the crowns, and that's how we know billbugs have been the problem. And you can see the little larvae developing there. Usually the worst problems in terms of yield are from this adult feeding, but as you can see, larval feeding can also cause problems due to lodging here. And if I want to find a billbug in the crown, I go into a field and I look for the most unthrifty plant there is. I grab that plant and usually that has a billbug developing in it. So I think this is a problem too. Unfortunately, efficacy of our major insecticide that we use for billbugs has eroded over time. So this is a simple graph. This is just the number of plants that were fed on in Poncho 1250 plots in my trials. These are replicated trials next to untreated trials. Now I've done 36 separate insecticide trials for southern corn billbug. Not all these trials that I have Poncho 1250 and untreated in. So I just selected those trials. And you notice that when we started testing southern corn billbug in 2013, we reduced the feeding. I mean, it was nearly absent in those 1250 plots, but that's slowly eroded over time. And so we're actually noticing more feeding in our Poncho 1250 plots. We think this is probably due to resistance. And that's unfortunate because in these 36 insecticide trials, there is not a silver bullet out there that's going to solve the problem. So when you think about if you're a company that's registering an insecticide, you have to make your money back. You need to target a product that's going to kill the important soil-dwelling insects in the major corn-growing regions. Western corn rootworm, northern corn rootworm have some resistance to Bt traits in the Midwest. That's where a lot of these insecticides go. When we test them here, it can't kill Arnold Schwarzenegger. That thing keeps coming back. You can't kill a billbug with an insecticide. So one of the things we've tried is counter, because counter or turbophos was used for billbug control prior to Poncho 1250. What we did last year was we thought we'd get really smart. We'll put that counter over top of the Poncho. So we tried it banded and in furrow. I felt kind of bad about leaving insecticide on the soil surface, but that's the way it used to be done. And then we tried this double use rate. So my predecessor had a special local needs label for this higher use rate to kill southern corn billbug. I don't know what happened in this trial. I don't know if we had salt injury. I don't know if we killed beneficial nematodes or what. We saw stand reduction when we used counter and furrow. This is not the answer to southern corn billbug. If it was maybe too much insecticide, we tried this over top of Poncho 500 this year. We didn't have a stand reduction. The problem was it didn't work. Didn't kill any more billbugs. So we don't have a product out there that's going to solve the problem right now. We've been testing a product called Ampex. It's not yet labeled. You can mix it with liquid fertilizer and guess what it is? It's liquid Poncho. So this is what our typical response to resistance, right? Put more insecticide out there. We really don't have a choice at this point. If we want to control billbug, we have to use cultural controls. We have to make sure that that corn gets off to a good start. I don't know if you saw Ron's presentation and saw him pick up the soil. He sees microbes. I see insecticide. These organic soils bind neonicotinoids really tightly. If we tested this soil right now, it would have a ton of poncho in it. We don't want the poncho in the soil. We want the poncho in the plant to kill the billbug. There's no really good answer out there. So what do we need to do? We need to get that corn off to a good start early season. We need to be very conscientious about rotation. Used to be you'd never do corn on corn. We know that happens sometimes now. We have to be careful about our neighbor's rotation, and we have to be careful about where we're placing corn in terms of distance to host that the billbug might be in. Are there any questions on that?
Years ago in Van Dyne, we started putting band and counter on top of the corn was about this tall. Have you done anything? I mean, it was working then. I mean, have you all gone back and tried that again?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Doug. No, so he's talking about banding counter over top of the corn, maybe what, V4, something like that?
You know, when the corn's just that tall.
Itty bitty corn. No, this was banded at planting, so we haven't tried that. Maybe that's something we'll look at this next year. You know, I don't want to open up a can of worms, but turbophos is a pretty toxic chemical. You know, there's birds out there in the environment and things like that. It's on the soil surface. We'll give it a shot, but that's not something I want to reach for right away. But I appreciate you bringing that up.
Has belay been labeled for corn yet?
I'm sorry?
Has belay been labeled for corn
Yeah,
yet?
so the question is belay labeled for corn? So belay is the same active ingredient as poncho and the same active ingredient as Ampex that I mentioned earlier. It's all clothianidin, that's the active ingredient. It's not labeled on corn, and you wouldn't, even if it was labeled, you wouldn't want to use it at planting with fertilizer because it'll come out of solution and make a big mess. So if Ampex is labeled, the advantage to that is you can mix it with your fertilizer and put it down at planting. But right now, belay isn't labeled. Any other questions?
What are you needing 2 years? I know at one time, like back on the farms, we would go corn, then 2 years of beans, and then back to corn. Is that going to be something we'll have to look at in the future?
Yeah, so the question would be, could you do a year of corn and 2 years of beans? I think the farther you can get out from corn, the better off you'll be. I will say that this thing's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's never going to go away. So we're seeing the problem in this area here, some in Pamlico County. The desert north of the Albemarle Sound used to have tons of billbugs. You can't find it up there anymore. For whatever reason, Poncho 1250 is still working up there. But there's an area in Bertie, Chowan, Perquimans Gates. These are fields that are not like this. They're really sandy, but they're areas where guys have been planting corn next to creeks and rivers, so billbug habitats, and we've been seeing billbugs in those areas where we hadn't seen them in the past. Areas where guys have put maybe corn on corn under irrigation in sandy land, we're having billbug problems. Ron does a lot of work with a grower in Sampson County. Who would have thought you'd have billbugs in Sampson County? The guy's got billbugs, so I think the more we can do for rotation, the better, but it's not going to go away. So even if you did corn and beans 2 years, it'd be great for corn the next year, but you might still have some billbugs, if that makes sense.
Is there something that, like with cotton, introducing cotton or something in the rotation that'd be beneficial to help with it further or not?
So the question is, would cotton help in the rotation? Cotton, soybeans, anything like that that's not corn or a billbug host would help, absolutely.
So wheat is a host?
Wheat is not a host.
It's not?
Wheat is not a host
Okay.
of southern corn billbug. No, wheat is not a host. So actually, the grower that we're doing insecticide trials with this year started growing cotton for the first time. And I'm not saying he grew cotton because of the billbugs, but where do you think he put some of that cotton at? On my favorite place to put an insecticide trial, which was where the billbugs were bad. So, I mean, it'd be a great thing to put cotton there. More questions? All right, well, I'll pass the baton.
I was going to say, well, thank you, Dominic.